Wildfire, one of Mother Nature's most destructive forces. A hurricane of flames, scorching acre after acre of Montana landscape. It's a fact of life in the Treasure State, filling our big sky with smoke and forcing neighbors from their homes. It is a force to be reckoned with, but one that we can learn to live with.
MTN News presents Living with Wildfire.
I'm Dennis Bragg on the campus of the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation here in Missoula. Over the next half hour, we're going to dive into some important topics to help you prepare for the upcoming wildfire season. Whether you're a lifelong resident or you just moved to Montana, we want to help you keep you safe as we'll share important information to prepare you, your home, and family for wildfires. Smoke from wildfires impacts all of us, and for some of us, it can impact our health. We'll show you a helpful do-it-yourself step you can take to keep smoke out of your homes. We'll also look at why property fire assessment should be a way of life. Did you know there's a business right here in Missoula that sells fire equipment for personal use? We'll tell you what's available and where you can go to get it. And we hope this doesn't happen, but what if you need to evacuate at a moment's notice? We've got the important items you need to pack to leave your home. Plus, our expert meteorologist will explain how the smoke travels from thousands of miles away and how our changing climate is leading to more wildfires each year here in Montana. For many of us in western Montana, the Forest Service is our closest neighbor, managing thousands of acres, and the agency is embarking on a 10-year plan to respond to climate change and wildfire.
In Montana and across the country, wildfires have gotten larger, longer duration, and more destructive. And so we have an increased wildfire risk, accumulated fuels, changing weather. We have more people living in the urban interface. And so all that's led to having a need to move forward with a decisive strategy. What are we going to do about it?
That question has been growing in importance over the past decade. Now the Forest Service is taking an important step in answering it, not all at once, but with an extensive 10-year objective known as confronting the wildfire crisis. While there are many tools such as building fire-resilient communities, the key focus for the Forest Service is reducing fuels and improving forest health, treating up to 20 million additional acres of agency lands, an additional 30 million acres of other federal, state, tribal, and private lands, and developing a maintenance plan beyond the initial 10 years.
And really the strategy is the upstream, being proactive, trying to really manage the forest so they can be resilient and healthy and mitigate the impacts of wildfire, because fires are going to happen. Fires, we live with fire. It is a fire ecosystem, but not having be so adverse and catastrophic. Fire, natural resources, they don't know boundaries on that. So this really is imperative that we work together. So it's working with other agencies, tribes, partners, volunteers, landowners to really treat the land across the boundaries.
While much of the work here at the Northern Region headquarters in Missoula will be how to implement the strategy in the coming years, some of the individual forests like the Bitterroot are already looking at ways of using the tools. Work on the Bitterroot Front Plan started in 2019. Now with potential funding available, the plan is being rebooted, critical in a community that's now been identified as one of the high-risk fire sheds.
You know, for years we didn't really have the funding to be proactive because forest management is expensive. If you can't, pay its way out of the woods through a timber sale, it's really hard to get it done. But Congress has recognized that value, that we can spend a lot less money getting in front of it than we can reacting to it later as a wildfire.
We've learned you don't have to be near a wildfire to suffer the effects of smoke. Our chief meteorologist, Elizabeth Copeland, tells us how smoke can travel from thousands of miles away.
Imagine walking out on a beautiful day like today, midsummer. You get outside, you take a deep breath in, you think, smells a little bit like wildfire smoke. But there's no wildfires around. Well, thousands of miles away, that wildfire smoke can travel right into our valleys of western Montana. What happens is these big wildfires across Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, that smoke, that gets into the upper atmosphere, and when that happens, it travels in these currents like a river of air in the upper atmosphere, filling right over western Montana quite frequently, and it settles in. Now, how does that exactly settle in? Why doesn't it just blow right past? Well, that's because we do have a lot of that sunny weather, that dense smoke moves over, it's heavy. It drops right down into our valleys, and when that happens, that sun can't get to the surface. Cooler air, we have these cooler temperatures in the afternoon occurring at these valley floors. And when that happens, it's way warmer up high. That smoke can't mix out because cooler air cannot mix out of warmer air above. So that cooler air sinks, that smoke stays at the bottom, and of course we're all very familiar with inversions. Those inversions set up and that smoke can stay for weeks at a time, as we're very familiar with here for those summer days. And again, wildfire smoke doesn't even have to be close to us for this to occur. So over the next couple of years, we will see this smoke continue filling in. Nothing changes too much. Those inversions set up, and that's why wildfire smoke is here to stay.
Knowing why the smoke sticks around so long is important, but what does that mean for keeping you and your family safe? MTN's James Dobson shares how a DIY project could make the difference between feeling sick and breathing easy.
Have you ever been sitting around a campfire when the wind changes and the smoke blows in your face? It doesn't feel good. That smoke fills your lungs, depriving your body of the oxygen it needs. What's worse, inside the smoke is microscopic chemicals. Super toxic. They're absorbed into your blood through the lungs and can cause major harm. But don't take my word for it. Here's Missoula County's wildfire smoke expert, Sarah Cofield.
When you breathe these particles in, they bypass your natural defenses and can go really deep into your lung and can even pass into your bloodstream. And what these do is they set off an inflammatory response in your body, because your body's really just not happy about having these intrusions.
Wildfire season in Montana is getting longer, and our air can be filled with smoke from fires hundreds of miles away. Cofield's advice, stay inside as much as possible.
If you're able, then you want to go and spend time in a place with cleaner air and basically give your system a break from that pollution.
The main way to filter out the smoke in your home is a dedicated portable air cleaner like this one. There are a ton of different models and sizes online, but the number you want to look for is called MERV 13. Many purifiers will be advertised as HEPA. That's an even higher filtration and will also work for smoke. The particulates we're trying to remove are called PM 2.5 in the filter world. Read the fine print to be sure your filter is enough. Most hardware stores don't carry this specialized equipment, and some of these devices can be quite expensive. So what do you do if the smoke is already here and you need clean air now? I'm going to show you how you can make a filter at home that is just as effective for a lot less money. You'll need three things: a box fan, some tape, and a MERV 13 air filter normally used in HVAC systems. First, prop up your fan and take your filter and line it up with the intake side of the fan. If your filter has an arrow on the side of it, make sure it points towards the fan. Next, take your tape and attach the filter all the way around on the sides of the fan. It's important that you create a good seal around the fan so that the smoke is drawn through the filter and not around it. This filter is 20 square inches, and you can see how well of a fit it is with this standard box fan. That's it. It'll be louder than a dedicated air purifier, but you'll be breathing smoke-free air in no time. But what if you want to enjoy a Montana summer and go outside? Here's Cofield again.
If you really have to go outside and it's smoky outside, either really scale back how active you are so you aren't increasing your heartbeat and breathing really deep and sucking in lots of pollution, or consider a respirator.
Make sure your mask is a genuine KN95. No simple paper or cloth masks here. Tie both straps firmly on your head and make a good seal on your face. People with beards and small children may struggle with this. Even with the mask, Cofield recommends you reduce your activity levels, take frequent breaks, and seek medical help if you feel sick.
It is temporary, and if you take some steps to make sure you can stay healthy while it's here, you can come out the other side and hit the ground running.
The most important tip is to remember that we're in this together. Help your neighbors find clean air, and don't despair. The smoke will not stick around forever.
While state and federal fire managers are doing their part to reduce fire risk, there's an increasing importance on property owners taking steps to deal with the danger and keep firefighters safe. Here's a look at what fire assessments are all about.
Raging firestorms, burned homes, displaced residents. Western fire seasons are alarming, seemingly with no safety.
That can feel overwhelming. And so what we like to do is we like to walk around with a homeowner and tell them some things they can really work on right now, today.
Organizations like the Missoula Fire Protection Association have been ramping up community assessments, where firefighters talk with homeowners about fire risks.
Would be a fire that had gained some steam and was throwing ember showers down into the bottom of the valley here. Think about a million buzzing bees, little embers that land on your house just every now and again in short duration. The Roaring Lion fire down in Hamilton, you can get ember showers up to a half mile away on a big day like that. When those columns really stand up, and they're a tremendous force of lift. And so you'll get pine cones, limbs from trees from a half mile away, and all these really fine needles on some of these trees. They're very aerodynamic.
Today is assessment training for firefighters, an educational effort with confidential data only for the fire departments, but pointing out less obvious risks like attic vents and vegetation close to homes.
And I look at your house and I'm not seeing shrubs up against it, not seeing vegetation touching it, anything combustible like some people have a cedar fence that goes and touches the house. Those can be a fuse to the house.
Well, it's real rewarding for me to get that validation that all the work that I was doing is setting an example for my friends and neighbors here.
Mapping finds problems, but also features critical if a fire breaks, like where to get water, what homes have proper addresses, and where to park engines.
And that's less stress on me, less danger to firefighters, good for everybody all around.
Langstaff, a retired Missoula firefighter, hopes everyone takes action.
Well, something as I see that really frightened me, because I would not want to be subjected to fighting a fire in some of these less than protected homes. They might as well just write them off if they're not going to do the work. But you know, you're not protecting just yourself, you're protecting your neighbors.
So these assessments are absolutely critical to get the community involved and to inform responders who are coming up when the day is done, when the day is bad.
For more information, check with your local fire department.
Last year, wildfires destroyed nearly 40 homes in Montana. Your house should offer protection, but in an instant, homes can leave you the most vulnerable to fire season's ruthless threats. So how do you keep your home and the people in it safe? MTN's Megan Mannering talked to a Missoula expert for the answer.
In its 49 years in business, Axman has seen everything on the spectrum of fire preparedness. But this year is different. Supply chain, population growth, and climate change. Together, it means one thing.
You better get after it or it's going to be too late.
From his perch in the back of Axman, Steve Sontag often hears the same misconception when talking to new Montana residents.
One of the biggest is what they expect for response time when they get in trouble.
Wildfires are just that, wild, unpredictable, and too large for fire trucks to put out.
You know, humanly, you can't really do a lot to it.
Officials may tell you to leave your property, but it's up to you to prepare your property for the worst.
To me, perimeter defense and the ability to protect your home is huge. But it's really not a one-size-fits-all.
In terms of supplies, Axman has it all, from sprinkler systems to pumps that slide right into your pickup truck to backpack sprayers.
We sell product here. We sell a lot of products. But the problem is we are not really salesmen. We are teachers. And that's what we want to be. Because if you don't understand what we're selling you, then we failed. And with fire, you cannot fail.
That's why Axman will sit down with you one-on-one before you ever buy a product.
It usually takes 2, maybe 3 meetings.
To be proactive, take some photos of your home and note the size of your property. Every home is different, which means every fire response should be too.
Come here, we'll put our heads together, and we'll see if we can do something that'll save your house or your land or you.
In Missoula, Megan Mannering, MTN News.
Did you know last August, 600 people in Montana were displaced due to evacuation orders? Now is the time to think about your family, pets, livestock, and valuables to bring during an evacuation. MTN's Katie Miller spoke to the experts who have firsthand experience helping residents evacuate safely.
Just outside Lolo, you can still see some damage from wildfires from years past. And just below that damage is some structures. If your house is that close to a wildfire this fire season, there's a few things Missoula and River Valley County authorities want you to know so you can get out safely.
We don't want anybody getting hurt. We're here to protect people's lives.
When the blazes come,
identify exit routes, get a go bag together.
law enforcement may ask you to leave.
Fires are moving faster and farther.
River Valley County Sheriff Steve Holton says it's critical people stay up to date with information during fire season.
Two-stage evacuation system. The first is warnings, and the second is an actual evacuation order.
If the time allows, we'll make those visits door to door.
Missoula County will also contact residents by issuing evacuation warnings, then an order.
Police emergency vehicle with lights and sirens activated. That's letting people know now is the time to get out.
Then roadblocks go up.
We do that for the safety and to preserve life for the homeowners, for the residents that are affected in that area.
You can also sign up for emergency notifications in both counties.
Use HyperReach for a county notification system, whether it's by email or text message or phone. And then we'll also use the sheriff's app to push out notifications.
In River Valley County, you can sign up for those alerts on the app or on the River Valley County Sheriff's Office website. And in Missoula, you can sign up for Smart 911 on the Missoula County website. In Missoula County, Katie Miller, MTN News.
Devastating and deadly wildfires are not just happening during the summer months anymore, but year-round. Scientists point to climate change having a strong effect on the changing landscape of wildfires. Climate change amplifies the fuel problem with warmer, drier conditions and increased winds. Meteorologist Louis Dortch takes a look at western Montana's latest climate numbers and what it means for our wildfire season.
Yes, the climate's changing. We know this. And with that, we can't describe fire season as just a summertime event anymore. It can go from the spring, summer, and even into the winter. Take last year in central and eastern Montana, December, widespread fires out there. Now, what I want to do is focus on, though, our precipitation, because we know it's getting warmer, but the precipitation could play big impacts on what we see as fire season. Updates to our climate normals last year's showed this: an increase in actual winter and early spring precipitation, but a big decrease in late spring and summertime precipitation. What this means is a much longer growing season, but then everything dries out. So look at some of the numbers we have here. This is for Missoula. Look at our increase in precipitation winter and into the springtime. Like I said, this is a longer growing season. You would think, fantastic, right? More precipitation, but the change is this: late spring, summer, big drops in precipitation, especially July and August. A ½ an inch drop there is a big impact when you consider those are some of our two most driest months of the year and everything dries out. So to kind of sum this up, a longer growing season with more precipitation, but then everything dries out. And what we lack big time with the latest updates in this climate is the beneficial rainfall during the summer months. That is becoming much more rare, and it's because of that which we could see some big impacts in how this is going to affect our fire season moving forward over the next several years.
Spring and fall are a great time to clean up the yard and garden debris ahead of the dry summer months. A practical way for homeowners to clear brush of debris is by open burning. But with that comes personal responsibility to prevent the fire from spreading. MTN's Sean Wells talks with the Flathead County Fire Area Manager for some helpful tips if you plan to open burn.
At any time you're burning, you're responsible for that. So you need to take the precautions.
Flathead County Fire Area Manager Lincoln CHUTE says one simple but important open burning rule is keeping your fires small.
Keep it small. Start small, keep it small. Your probability of success is much higher, and you get done what you want without having problems.
Lincoln says high winds can pick up out of nowhere in northwest Montana, meaning fuel mitigation in grass, brush, and timber goes a long way if a burn pile breaks loose.
Are the limbs from one tree to another touching? If so, they have a higher probability to be able to carry the fire through the tree tops. And when fire's in the treetops, we can't do anything with it.
Lincoln says keeping the grass mowed at least 30 feet from your home can be a lifesaver if a fire gets out of control.
It will drastically change the fire behavior, and you have a higher probability of your house not having damage.
Lincoln says water is your friend while open burning. He recommends having a bucket of water close by to make sure that fire is dead out. In Kalispell, Sean Wells, MTN News.
Joining us now is Kristen Mortensen. She's the Community Preparedness and Wildfire Prevention Specialist with DNRC in the Southwestern office here in Missoula. Kristen, we've heard a lot about fire smoke. We've talked about community assessments. How urgent is it for communities now to take action, especially given what we've learned about climate change and all of those other impacts right now?
Well, Dennis, it's extremely urgent. It's not a matter of if with wildfires, but when. Fire is inevitable. And the key thing to remember is that losing homes to fire is not inevitable. There are things that every individual homeowner can do to reduce their risk from losing their home to wildfire.
What should people be doing in their communities if they want to get their neighbors enacted and be able to take some of these steps? What's kind of the first move that they should make?
Well, there's actually two first steps. First, one of the steps is for you to request a free wildfire risk home assessment. Get information on your home's vulnerabilities to fire and take the action that's needed to reduce that risk. Do that on that individual level. Tell your neighbors. Spread that action. But then also to invite a local fire professional, someone like myself or a local fire chief, to come and speak to your HOA or a neighborhood group about the steps that each individual homeowner and the community as a whole can take to reduce that risk to wildfire.
And we talked a lot about keeping our homes safe, but recreating responsibly is also a big part of this, isn't it?
It's a huge part of it. 75% of the wildfires in our area are human caused. That's 100% preventable. So whether we are burning a debris pile on our property or out playing in our wonderful public lands and starting our campfires, we need to do so responsibly.
So what about some of the local resources if people want to learn more information?
So the Missoula County Fire Protection Association website at mcfpa.org or their Facebook has wonderful information on preparedness and fire prevention. There is also www.mtfireinfo.org for information on current fire activity and fire restrictions in the area. And then at a bigger level, firewise.org provides great information on how individuals and communities can become better prepared for wildfire.
All right, well, we'll all stay safe. Thanks, Kristen. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dennis.
Remember, you can follow MTN's Wildfire Watch coverage on your schedule with the KPAX streaming app for Roku and other devices. Just use your remote to scroll to the Wildfire Watch section to watch all of our stories. And when events call for it, we'll bring you live coverage. Along with that, you can download the KPAX News app to take MTN's coverage with you. To learn more about all of these options, just visit kpax.com/apps. As we've known in Montana for years, fire is a part of the landscape. But that biological fact doesn't make the reality of living with fire any easier, especially when fires can destroy our homes and communities. But as we've tried to show you, living with fire is going to continue to be an increasingly important aspect of life in Montana. But through education and action, we can be better prepared, increasing our response to fire by preparing before the flames begin. Thanks for joining us. Become firewise and be safe.